evening. The planning and zoning board meeting on January 15, 2005 is now called to order. 2025 is now called to order. Can you please call roll?
Member Alexander.
Here.
Member Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, aye.
Member Pfeffer.
Here.
Member Trojanowski.
Here.
Secretary Amoroso.
Here.
Vice Chair Cardo.
Here.
Chair Burke.
Here.
Alternate D'Erico.
Here.
Alternate Warnicki.
Here.
Alternate Webster. Alternate Zlatos.
Good evening. At this time, I would ask for the approval of the minutes from the November.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the minutes from the November 21st, 2024 Planning and Zoning Board hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So adopted. Approved. There is no presentations of awards or reports. There's no public forum, it seems, and there is no old business. There is new business. Before we begin the new business, I have something to say. I, along with various members of this board and city commissioners, received an email from Tom Burbank regarding matters that are on today's agenda, in which he advocated that the board take certain positions. As a member of the public, I take issue with Mr. Burbank's efforts in this regard. I understand his prior involvement with the board and other city bodies, but he stands before this board as a member of the public. We are a quasi-judiciary board, and matters that are brought before us by the public should be done so in a public forum and not in an email. I do not know what the practice has been in the past, but it's my opinion that this is completely inappropriate and should not happen again. I believe that Mr. Burbank should be advised that if he has a matter that he would like this board to consider, that he appear before the board at a hearing and take advantage of the public forum afforded the public. I don't know if Mr. Smith or the city attorney would like to add anything to it, but I, as a chair, felt it necessary that the board members not receive emails from the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your comments. The city has adopted a procedure in its quasi-judicial hearings whereby ex parte communications can be cured through notification. Tonight, we do not have any quasi-judicial items, but if there were to be a quasi-judicial hearing and there were ex parte communications, board members could cure those communications through disclosure at the public hearing.
Okay, I understand the ability to cure it. The question is whether the actions are appropriate in the first place. There's some members who did not receive it, so it's not every member is receiving it. Certain members are receiving it, certain members are not receiving it.
So, Madam Chair, so Mr. Burbanks reached out to the Planning Department for the emails of the Planning Commission, and the public has the right to email members of the Planning and Zoning Board, and it's your prerogative whether you want to respond back. And
Is that somewhere in our regulations?
What's that?
That's in our regulations?
That they can contact you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we don't have, you can have stopped sending us emails of each other. And I know there's a reason for it, because I assume the reason is that you want us to conduct all our business in the public because of the sunshine law. So now I'm getting emails from a public
I don't
with
think
emails on it.
you can stop him from that's freedom of speech. He can send us anything he wants.
Correct.
can't.
The sunshine law in Florida, the open meeting law, applies to communications between members of
Right.
a board or a commission, not between the public and an individual member. If, for instance, you were to receive an email addressed to multiple members and you were to reply all,
Well, I understand
and
that.
include the other members, that would be a sunshine violation. However, communicating with a member of the public is not.
Okay, I would take offense, and I don't think it's a question of First Amendment rights or anything like that, but we are a body, and matters that appear before us should come before us in I would deem an appropriate manner, which is from the public in a public forum, and not through emails. So
Understood, Madam Chair.
I'm going to register my objection to receiving those emails at this point, and if there is a mechanism by which I can advocate that and speak to the city commissioners, I will, because he has that option. Other people don't have that option. He has the ability. To me, it affords someone who's been active and involved more access to the members than the general public. The general public is not getting our emails and saying, if you want to, you can communicate. But he, by virtue of his prior positions with the commission and the board, is taking advantage of that. And I'm not so sure that sits well with me as far as the public at large, not having that same advantage.
Understood, Madam Chair.
All right.
Can I ask a question on that real quick?
Sure.
So the question I have is when we submit, I assume, our application to be on the planning and zoning and put our email in there, that is public record then. So essentially, you guys didn't give out our email. They did their research and went back and found our email. Am I correct?
They were, we'll
Yeah,
defer
how do
to
you
staff,
get
but
it?
it was a public records request, and you are correct, your applications are public record.
Correct. So they contacted the planning department. They asked for emails of the planning and zoning board, which is public record, due to the application that you filled out, and we provided the email as requested.
I just want to say I'm not advocating the emails. However, I think he should come here and go through the process and just stand up here and like anybody and have his piece personally. But I don't know because if he was a past commissioner or what. But I didn't think there was any way we can like stop him or stop. It was just your privilege not to open it.
That is true, and that is true. But I thought it gave him a distinct advantage over the public at large, and
Gotta
found
consider
something
the source.
that didn't sit well with me. Wanted to put it on the record. Let's address it as a body. I mean, if the consensus and the regulations is such that allows him to do it, obviously that's something, while I might not agree with it, would live with. But I didn't think it should just been ignored and gone without notice, because it does give him a distinct advantage, and it's something I thought the public should know. So now it's a public record, so we might get 50 million emails at this point.
Thanks for that.
But at least to me, it was a matter that was brought before the public because I thought it should have been. As I think his comments should come before the board in the public forum. Sure.
I have a question. So if our email addresses are a matter of public record, are our communications with individuals who reach out to us also a matter of public record?
Just items that are relating to public hearings.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Just items that are related to public hearings, the items that you consider and talk about at the dais here. And I'll
So
let
if
the
we
city
respond
attorney-
to somebody who emails us, that's not a matter of public record, or it is a matter of public record?
Not a personal email, but anything regarding city business.
Well, okay.
That came through the city. How
I
else
think
would
I'd
they
get
know?
something of a personal nature. I'm talking about something that was
You wanna
on the agenda.
Yes, if you are communicating regarding something that is on the agenda or that is to do with your position as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, those are public records, even though they are conducted through a personal email address. Those are still a public record. The distinction that Mr. Smith is drawing is your communication through personal email on a personal matter is not a public record.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else has anything to say? Add? No? You may proceed with our next our next matter on the agenda, which is ordinance number 04-2025, amending that one is tabled, is that correct?
So, Madam Chair, staff is recommending that we table ordinance number 4-2025 and table ordinance number 13-2024. Staff had a workshop with City Commission on Monday evening, and there's some issues that we need to work out with those two items, and it'll be brought back to the City Commission at a later date, just to make sure we're all on the same page, and it'll be brought to Planning and Zoning for consideration.
Thank you, because I watched the workshop, and so I was wondering what we were going to address today.
Okay,
Because
so
I thought there were certain matters that were still pending in those two resolutions. So the matter before us today is ordinance 05-2025, amending section 110-319 PUD Plan Unit Development, updating application requirements to include enhanced architectural, landscaping, and environmental standards of the Land Development Code of the City of Deltona. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Jordan Smith, Planning Director. So tonight we're talking about ordinance number 5-2025, and it's amending section 110-319, the PUD's Planned Unit Development. On October 7, 2024, the City Commission approved resolution number 2024-54 to declare zoning in progress regarding section 110-319 planned unit developments. And essentially what we're doing is we're raising the bar and establishing criteria to achieve exceptional quality community designs throughout the city. PUDs operate under a special agreement between the developers and the City Commission. It allows for more creative and efficient land use. Planned unit developments combine single uses or mixture of uses, and I'll go into that in the next slide. And typically they include shared amenities such as walking trails, parks, pools, etc. It requires public hearings, and developer must enter into a developer agreement with the City Commission. There are four types of PUDs. You have your residential PUD, which consists of strictly residential, single family, sometimes multifamily. You have your commercial PUDs, which contain commercial spaces like retail stores and offices. Industrial PUDs, which are just industrial type uses. And then you have your mixed use PUDs, which blend residential, commercial, and sometimes industrial spaces. And these create a live, work, play environment. So some recently approved PUDs within the city of Deltona. I'm not going to go over this whole list, but recent ones are Catalina Point, and these include townhomes and villas. And then you have the Lehigh Business PUD, which includes medical business offices with storage facility and RV parking. So our current regulations for PUDs, they're very broad, and they're not achieving the desired outcomes such as community character. These updated regulations will provide quality housing, shopping, and places of employment. And it ensures that all new development is of the highest possible quality. Some of the benefits of these updated regulations include more green space, which will include open space, parks, and natural areas. There'll be walkability. It encourages walking and biking, more amenities such as swimming pools for residential PUDs, clubhouses, playgrounds, walking trails. There's also an aesthetic appeal. They'll be visually appealing. Preservation of natural features, which is incorporation of existing trees, waterways into development, and also sense of community. These shared spaces and amenities foster a strong sense of community. The summary of the modifications that are before you tonight: the PUDs shall offer public benefits and amenities. We're changing business PUD to commercial PUD. We are requiring design regulations for residential PUDs, and we are requiring standard regulations for commercial, industrial, and mixed-use PUDs, such as enhanced landscaping, pedestrian-friendly, and architectural style. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Smith, can you tell me the documents that we have say that we have an attachment, the permitted use table? I can't seem to find that. Are you altering the permitted use table? And if so, would a copy of that be available for review?
We are altering the permitted use table, and that's actually a part of the third item that was on the agenda, which got tabled. So
Okay. So the attachment here is for something else then? It notes that it's an attachment, but it's not for this particular ordinance. Is that what you're
correct.
saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Alexander, you have something?
I guess I apologize. I apologize, I'm trying to, then what is our task here that you're asking us? I went through all three of those, and all we have, you took out everything that, the other two that you tabled already, correct?
The other two got tabled. So we're just looking at section 110-319, which is planned unit development.
Yeah, what's the only thing that's in here now, right? So, which has, and so our task is just agreeing to approve and approving that you have revised the PUDs?
We have revised the regulations for PUDs, correct?
The regulations for the PUDs, and
We put in design standards for residential, and we're enhancing the regulations for commercial/business PUDs, industrial PUDs, and mixed-use PUDs.
and just kind of adding to and changing, making some changes in the things you want to see in those developments.
That is correct, sir.
And because I have to say, what I saw earlier in the one where you, on the table, that I was impressed that you were simplifying. I go through a lot of different cities zoning, trying to find zoning, and you did simplify. I was pleased to see the simplification of just the classifications that you did, but this isn't even, that's not in here either, so. Future for zoning. Okay. I don't have any questions at this time. I'm trying to make sense of which one this is, what the actual changes were. That's what I'm trying to find.
So in your
Very specific. I know you had a list there, but.
Right, in your packet, there's the red line version and also the clean version.
Yeah, I saw that before.
It's kind of hard to read. Can you flip back to where you emphasize the benefits, I guess, where it
Here we
outlines
go, but
the changes?
I can't go through each one of these. It's
Okay, here they are.
just a movement, no parking shall be permitted.
Maybe Mr. Smith can speak to the history as
Oh,
to
yeah.
what has transpired that got us to this point. Since this is all kind of new, it's a lot of information to digest and absorb, and we just got this information 4 or 5 days ago. So can you give us an idea of how we got here?
We got here pretty much due to the quality of the residential PUDs that have been approved within the city, and also the last couple business PUDs as well. So staff has listened to the commission. They've asked staff to raise the bar. They want to see more quality development. So staff went ahead and looked at the PUD regulations. They're very broad. They don't have a lot of teeth for the city to require certain things such as amenities for various developments. So that's where we're at.
Okay, so City Commission asked for you all to take a look at revising it.
City Commission has asked staff to revise the whole land development code.
Did City Commission have a workshop on this particular ordinance revision?
We had a workshop on Monday.
Was there a particular reason why, if we're being asked to vote on it, we weren't invited to that workshop? So that we could have some background understanding and some information on what the board is, where they're headed? It would have been helpful.
Okay.
You're asking
Noted.
us to vote on something, and like I said, there's a lot of information here. There's a lot to absorb and digest.
Yep.
We've only had 4 or 5 days to be able to look at this. A lot of us on the board have full-time jobs, so it's not, this is something that would be done on the weekends or after working hours, and I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with voting on this at this point. I'm going to defer to the other board members and see what their opinion is.
If I may, I would also like to point out that these regulations are also under a declaration of zoning in progress legislation in progress that was issued by the City Commission back in October. So we have been working on this for a while at the direction of the commission. I understand that you didn't receive an invitation to the Monday workshop. However, it was an open public meeting, and we certainly want to afford you the opportunity to delve into these regulations as you see fit.
While I can appreciate that there's been lots of work on this in the background, we haven't been involved in any of that. We haven't been invited to it, we haven't been involved in it, and now we're being asked to vote on it and give it an opinion with what it's my opinion that it's a limited amount of information. You're asking me to make a decision without all of the facts and with a limited amount of information. So while we may not be able to go back and invite us to workshops that were had, and so that we can understand the mindset and the process, it's very difficult for us to be able to do that at this point with only 4 or 5 days to be able to review all of this material and make an educated judgment, a decision based on the revisions that you're putting before us that go way further than bullets on a board, bullet points on a board. So I'll defer to the rest of the board.
Go ahead, I think he was waiting. You may proceed.
I was at the workshop on Monday, and just a little background to myself. I am certified in Florida as a SEPTED inspector. I did comment as part of the public during that meeting, and I do know a lot of what you were putting forth and the changes that were made to the regulations. However, in my opinion, it does not go far enough. The state, back with the tort reform, has came up with changes through certified inspectors like myself, and multi-use for apartment buildings. As of next year, most likely won't be able to get insurance unless they follow those guidelines, which 90% of them are here. But I say we need to take it a step further and actually follow the SEPTED guidelines from the state that the state's already put forward, so that we could, because the SEPTED itself is crime prevention, it's proactive. For those, it's a proactive crime fighting technique in which proper design and effective use of the building environment can lead to a reduction in fear and incidents of crime. Very, very good practices. It encompasses all that's here plus more, but it incorporates the community as well into social programs, into this crime-fighting technique, as well as design of the buildings, lighting standards, lighting surveys as well too. I say that in the entrance to the city, that because you do hear a lot of times that you see increased levels of crime in multi-use apartments, condos, such, many malls, strip malls, something that would be inside one of these mixed-use PUDs. It'd behoove the city to be able to enhance the security by mandating these standards, which the state has already put forward. So I would recommend that we would actually go back and look at what the state standard is for SEPTED and the training that they put forward and adopt their standards, which would make it even across the board.
Are you specifically speaking about multifamily or all? This is going to affect all the PUDs.
No, SEPTED is part of, if you go to other cities that have incorporated this type of environment, Tampa, for one, there's not a building that can be erected or planning that can be approved without a SEPTED report survey completed before the final approval.
And that's just one item.
And some jurisdictions have reviewing disciplines. They have individuals that work and are part of the departments that review for plans that are submitted that specify SEPTED design requirements. So they're looking just for that, regardless of the application that's submitted.
Correct, and they will give their recommendations. 95% are police officers through the cities. Other they do hire security companies as well. But we have the benefit now that, like myself, we have those in the community that are certified now to do these types of inspections, and their lists are prominently named on the crime prevention website for the state. So we have resources that will be able to help with this.
So staff would request that the Planning and Zoning Board approve this item, and let's move it forward to the City Commission in February. And in between, if the Planning and Zoning has any comments, staff is willing to look at them and discuss them with individual members and incorporate whatever comments may need to be incorporated into the changes.
That approach literally takes our function away from us. I'm not sure I agree with what the panelists are saying, but to just say, okay, we agree, and we'll come back to you and let you know later on if we have some disagreement, in essence, takes away our effective recommendation role, because we're not really recommending anything that goes to the body. You made mention of the state regulations. You said they were broad. Are you in disagreement with the member that there are not state regulations that we can mirror or adopt that would make it?
I'm not an expert SEPTED, so I would need more time to research that information. But I'm not aware of standards to be incorporated into a PUD like this. So.
The SEPTED statute that the board member refers to is a tort reform statute and relates specifically to negligence torts. It certainly sets out and refers to the guidelines for SEPTED, but it is not a mandate to cities.
I understand. So I guess the argument is that part of these places won't be able to get insurance because of the liability exposure is greater than what the state would want. So that may be beyond our approach, but then again, it's something that maybe I did hear you raise it before the city commission. I don't know what they're going to do with it and what they thought about it. But I think we have other issues. I think there were other board members that wanted to speak about other issues as well as yours. So would you proceed?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I was just going to agree with Andrea, with what she said. I mean, it's a lot of reading. It's, in my opinion, I mean, a red line, usually you cross stuff off and then you write with, this is essentially to me, a complete rewrite, and it was very hard for me to compare what was there before to what's there now. So the time frame that we had, like I couldn't spread it out because yes, I do work a full-time job, but I would like to look at it more like the opinion of welcome, very nice what you said, but the opinion what he had, I couldn't even have an opinion because I couldn't compare, so that's my thing.
Did you want to add something?
I guess it's line 236 through 239, where it talks about considerations basically for water and soil types. I'm sorry. On lines 235 to 238, there's a paragraph that talks about general topographical and physical conditions of the site. I'd like to see something in there that talks about historical flooding neighborhood concerns rather than just the kind of a vague 100-year floodplain, because we've had several times where the 100-year floodplain doesn't reflect house-by-house considerations or local considerations, and it would give us a chance to actually consider neighborhood complaints. This kind of is very vague as to natural drainage patterns and stuff. I mean, it has to be insofar as they affect flooding in a historical manner or something. So I think that wording should be improved. And the second thing, and I don't know where it comes here, but there's a lot of places have a long-term sidewalk plan where each development that's put in a certain area has to contribute to the long-term plan for sidewalks. So even if there isn't enough traffic generated in that particular PUD, in the future, it could connect to another one, which could connect to another one where we want sidewalks. So that somewhere in the considerations, it would be how it fits into the future plan of development for sidewalks, lighting, whatever considerations there are.
Okay, noted.
I have a question. Since we tabled the other things, the other two items, do you have any projects currently in the planning department that this might affect?
Yes.
Positively, negatively? I mean,
So it's hard to place a value on positive or negative impacts. There are changes to the regulations that will impact the projects that are in the pipeline that are subject to the provisions of the zoning in progress.
Mr. Smith, I thought during the workshop that
Mike's not on.
I thought during the workshop there were photos shown. Did you show them here today, where the difference from what you were looking for, what you were looking at as far as aesthetics, and what you thought from the commercial?
Staff did not include the photos in this presentation because we were just concentrating on the meat of the changes for the regulations.
Okay, so the photos, when you were talking about proper right PUDs and wrong PUDs, we don't have that? You don't have that to show it to us?
We can go get it.
Okay, I mean, maybe if the board can visualize some of the concepts that what you're looking at, because it is abstract to us. We just see a lot of words, a lot of letters here, and it's hard to distinguish what exactly that was done on what you're looking at. This other one, And then while she's looking for that, can you answer this question? Your requirements now that are to enhance the community, which I encourage wholeheartedly. I mean, I'll do backflips to get Deltona to focus on the attractiveness of its communities. But have you looked at it? Is it any more burdensome than the other surrounding cities, D-Land, Sanford? Did you make a comparison between the other jurisdictions?
So I used to work.
You used to work at Sanford,
I know you used to work in Sanford.
I used to work for the city of Sanford, and we were directed by the City Commission in Sanford to actually revise the residential PUDs, and a lot of what you see in this packet is what I did in Sanford for residential PUDs.
Okay. In comparison, Sanford to the other jurisdiction, are they more burdensome? Is it consistent? Are we behind the time? I guess that might have been one of the questions the member asked when she said, how did we get here? Is it because
I would say Deltona is behind in the times, and we need to raise the bar in terms of the type of development that we are seeking and the product that we are getting from developers.
Okay.
And so this is the presentation that was provided to the City Commission on Monday. These are this first slide is an example of a non-desirable PUD, residential PUD. You have overly dense housing, you have limited amenities, no street lighting, and just lack of design. There's no pool, there's no parks, no walking trails. Here are some successful commercial PUDs. The buildings are oriented towards the street. There's landscaping. You have a pedestrian walkability. And just some successful industrial PUDs. Once again, landscaping, preservation of environmental features, design characteristics, screening of parking lots. And there's another one, I believe this one is in Jacksonville. And some successful mixed-use PUDs. And this PUD includes office, residential, vertical residential, and commercial. And here's another successful mixed-use PUD, which includes commercial, multifamily, and single-family. And so what staff is saying, if we implement these standards, these are the types of PUDs that will result.
These illustrations help the members to visualize.
And my apologies for not including that in this presentation.
No problem. We're all here together to figure this out. Does that generate any other questions or comments from anyone?
This is just in regards to kind of guidelines on the exterior, the landscaping, the roadways, and this has no, we're still not in. One of the items that got tabled was the zoning ordinance 13-2024, right? And
correct.
The other one was ordinance 04-2025. I'm not seeing anything here that is other than just kind of, I don't see anything that's too egregious to a developer except cleaning them up, right? I guess that's what I'm asking. And you said there was something, you already had something that was working in, or maybe 2 or 3, I don't know. I just wondered if this, one of my concerns is cities go and then, these people come to us in the city and they apply for things and they put a lot of money into them. And I know the dirty word, I'm sorry, even a dollar store can put $100,000 before they even break dirt, just getting the approval, and getting engineering and all that. Is there anything that you feel, Jordan, that's going to be, that this may affect somebody that's already applying or that's in the pipeline and in that case, I would think that this would be not retroactive to those folks, but anything going forward. That's my question. Are these new lines going to be for anything as soon as it's approved from that point on? Are these new guidelines,
Under the doctrine of zoning in progress, legislation in progress, any application that was submitted after the declaration is subject to the new regulations.
That makes sense. But
so that would date back to October when that was issued, if there was an application submitted.
Oh, it does go back to October.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
However, all of these applicants are put on notice. It's properly, recorded in public record. So
I have to look that up.
Yeah, we can forward to the board the copy of the resolution designating zoning in progress on this matter.
And I'd like just to remind the board that any PUD any rezone to a PUD, this board is going to see that application and have the recommendation in terms of the design, in terms of the layout of the site. So this board is going to be totally involved in every single PUD going forward.
Yeah, oh, sure. Because I know we have a lot of things coming. We're seeing a lot of growth, and I expect we'll see a lot more this year. As a matter of fact, there's a positivity of development coming down the pike, I believe. I don't know.
I have a question. There is a lot of rapid change and growth in the industrial industry from commercial to multifamily housing. When was the last time there was a major change to the existing regulations? Is it an annual review, which would make sense? But
it's been quite a while since these regulations were updated. Jessica's looking at the date now.
Oh my gosh, here in Deltona, it's been, I can't remember. It has to have been quite a while ago. Are you looking for, yep.
So any other questions pending while they research that issue? No.
Two principal buildings. Makes sense.
2014, sir.
Thank you.
10 years.
Any other discussions, questions from the city, from Mr. Smith at this time? Any motions? Thank you. Is there a motion? Anyone want to move?
Is there anybody in the public here for any reason?
City public
Is there,
discussion?
do we have anybody to talk about this? Okay.
Go ahead. Can you call up?
Yes, Larry French.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board meetings. Members, thank you for what you do. I've served on Parks and Rec Advisory Boards before. I know your work is volunteer-based, and you put in a lot of time. You don't often get recognition for it, and you do a lot of work. I'm not sure how many of you were following up on what was going on.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you're here?
Sorry. Larry French. I live at 2520 Arslan Street in Deltona on the southern edge of the Lake Elizabeth.
Thank you. I apologize, but thank you.
I've been a resident here for over 40 years, so I've seen a lot of these things, and especially I can relate back to how long ago it's since any of these changes were made. And these are good, and they're definitely overdue. I don't know how many of you were following the proceedings that were going on with the county yesterday. They had a 7-hour meeting that included hundreds of people from the public who were there trying to see about whether or not something would be done at the county level that would help with flood control, and this kind of relates to what you all are talking about, which is why I'm here. In the end, they decided not to have a moratorium because of the detrimental effect it could have on development, since development does feed a lot of our economy. But this also trickles down to us too, because the root thing that you're dealing with here that affects a lot of our flooding and the things that we're now having here in Deltona is the actual design and guideline building practices that are utilized or implemented in our development practices. That's why this is very encouraging to see these kinds of changes. For years here in Deltona, we have had a practice, and it's not anybody's real fault, it's not your fault either, and how a development gets approved. There are boxes that are checked off. The developer does that. So does the lawyer that represents them, so forth. There are certain guidelines they practice in clearing and doing everything that they do for a development, and they're prescribed to do certain things. But for years, we have neglected the importance of certain things in our landscape that help to absorb water. And we are a tree city, but to see a lot of our development that's taking place, you would not think so. I've got some material I'm going to pass on. Hopefully these will come to you so you can see some of this and read it. Also, I sent it to the planning and development, and I've also sent some of this information to all the commissioners. I had one who responded and asked me to actually appear at your meeting so that I could interject some of this. So hopefully as we move forward, you were talking about details and things like that, more of these things can be considered in these revisions, like a pine tree, one pine tree can absorb up to 10 gallons of water every day. An oak tree, up to 100. And every time we do all these clearing things, and that doesn't even get into the details of shrubbery and so forth, every bit of that, even the palmettos that people don't like, those types of things absorb water and rainfall. And when we completely eliminate those from a landscape, especially in a large development or a housing development, the water, even when they talk about historic levels and big major events, it doesn't have the ability to do a lot of the absorption that normally would take place. So we are going to have flooding, which would mean you're going to have more pump stations, and you're then looking at mitigations of possibly purchasing properties that can no longer be deemed as feasible for repairing or raising up, which is some of the stuff that's being proposed now. So I encourage you all to find out as much as you can about this and to try and incorporate as much inclusion of preservation of foliage in all the development.
Thank you. Of the public? You can.
Sir?
I don't think, do you think y'all have to agree?
Here's a question.
Can you come and return to the podium? One member has a question.
Yes.
Is there any sort of historical record of how much water absorption there's been in the town and how it's going down in time?
Yeah, they were presenting some of that information based on records for DeLand and other places in the county meeting. If you actually, it was taped, so you can go back and listen to it, and there are records. Some of it would be somewhat representative of Deltona, but in a sense, we're going to be a bit of an exclusion from some of that data because we are higher elevation and much sandier soil. So we have much more percolation ability here because of our sandy soils, which is why development is really desirable in these kind of areas. Historically, these kind of areas where lots of orange groves are planted because the sandy soil is really good for growing things. And it's fascinating, and you can learn more about it right across the street at Lyonia.
Thank you.
I mean, but it would be useful for the zoning board to have some kind of data in front of us so we can make judgments.
Right.
I don't want to give and take between the public, but
He's quasi-expert, I guess.
Okay.
well, I understand that, but we're to receive comments. I understand. I don't want to engage back and forth, if you don't mind.
Understood. You can always contact me personally, and I'll make sure everybody has the information.
You have another question for him? Is that?
Is there information?
Yeah, he told you where you can get the information. Excuse me? Right. Why don't we meet with them afterwards and try to find out exactly where it is, and if anyone else wants to know, we can do so as well. Any other public comments?
Yes, Kim Booker.
Please state your name.
Kim Booker, attorney, Booker & Associates. I'm here on behalf of Blackfin Investments, a client of mine. I just wanted to register some concerns that we had. We have a pending application before the city. Back in July, my client met with the staff on the pre-app meeting to determine whether or not a site at 930 Howland Boulevard was acceptable for a commercial retail site as well as a self-storage boat and RV parking or storage in the rear of the property. They got the green light to go ahead to do a BPUD in that site. On October 7th, as stated before by Mr. Good, the city did a zoning in progress notice. That particular notice, though, and I have a copy of it if anybody would like to see it, it specifically refers to flexibility in site design requirements. PUD, planned unit developments, shall deliver exceptional quality community designs that preserve critical environmental resources, provide high-quality community amenities, creative design in the layout of buildings and circulation, which I think are the photographs that you've seen, provide greater efficiency in the layout and provisions of roads, utilities, drainage, and other infrastructure, provide large, common, open recreational space. That was the notice. That did not in any way affect my clients, other than they had a PUD pending. They were, though, later, their application was submitted on November 27th, which was after the October 7th date. They had incurred at that point several hundreds of thousands of dollars. They've completed a traffic study, they've completed engineering, they completed surveys, and they have submitted their application. It has been reviewed. There was an insufficiency letter issued in December that there were some additional copies that needed to be provided. Those items were provided. But then they received recently a notice that the adoption of these new regulations was going to impact their application. And now I have some concerns that it may impact other applications, because it seems that there is a desire to, and I understand some of this, a desire to limit the self-storage facilities in Deltona. This particular project, though, is an ideal project because the self-storage element of it is a two-story building, looks like an office building, and is located at the rear of the property. The front of the property, there's an existing veterinary clinic, and there's going to be a commercial retail building that is part of this project. So it's shielded from Howland Boulevard. It is surrounded by open space, the high school, and existing commercial. So it's in an ideal location to provide services for the residential community, which is what my clients do. The self-storage facilities are of a type that they build them with climate controlled, they're internal, you don't see doors opening up, you don't see, they're done very professionally. This is going to be a $15 million project. There's some real concern now that they've expended substantial sums, and now they're being told that apparently there's a determination, which I don't see this in the code, that self-storage is now going to be declared warehouse only, and it will be required to be in an industrial area or an industrial PUD. And I don't think that's clear in these changes of the code that that's how it's to be treated. There's a lot of discretion, apparently, by the planning director, but, I've asked for clarification, and I don't believe that these types of self-storage facilities qualify as warehouse. I think of warehouse being a manufacturing facility, something that you would see with Amazon, where we have an IPUD next to the activity center, which is a substantial amount, over 40,000 square feet. So I don't think that they qualify to be in an industrial area. Also, if you want to store your residential home goods and your boat and RV, which you need to do because Deltona has certain restrictions, restrictive covenants and code enforcement that they're citing people for, they have to find places to park those things, and so residential neighborhoods need those resources to be able to park those RVs and boats and not in their yard. And so I think it does provide a commercial service, not an industrial service.
Well, thank you. I think your time has way expired. I was trying to give you every bit of it, but if you want to have a sentence or two to wrap it up, that's fine.
Yes, well, my point is I just would like some equitable treatment of the existing applications, consideration given to the fact that the applicants have incurred substantial costs in relying on on the existing code, and the fact that the zoning in progress did not, in my opinion, give them any kind of notice that their application was going to be treated differently under the code as an industrial use. So I would respectfully ask you to consider that in anything that you recommend to the commission.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question specifically, Ms. Booker. Did you see something where this will affect them? In which way, very specifically, in the cost of what is it you think that's going to cost them extra?
Well, we have been told by staff that they are no longer commercial use.
Through the chair, I don't believe that this is the appropriate venue to hear a pending application that may come before this board. If Ms. Booker would like to comment on the regulations, and certainly, coming and representing her client's interest is allowed. However, I would discourage the board from having a discussion on a pending application.
The code itself.
Wait a minute, ma'am. He was addressing me, the matters before me. Let me rule before you speak, okay? Thank you. I'm thinking about what he argued, because there is a point, but I'll give you already spoke about your application, so that boat's already sailed. I will give you a short time to talk about it, but it's questionable whether that has any really bearing. You made your argument, but I will respect the member's request to ask the question, and you can answer it briefly.
I think specifically there was some deletion of the word mini warehouse under the commercial zoning, and there is simply the reference to warehouse in the code now, which is left for interpretation. And what I'd asked is there be some clarification, possibly some reference to this type of land use that could be to avoid in the future that confusion, and that it should be addressed that you have, and I know I'm not the only one, I know there are more, applications that this is going to affect if it's interpreted differently, because it's not really in there that's how it's going to be interpreted, but that's the interpretation we're being given. So I have a concern about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My concern, and when I brought this up in this ordinance, 05-2025, You have a section here, 3, zoning in progress. All property owners, developers should be aware that provisions of the pending ordinance not yet adopted by the City Commission may be applied to any proposed development applications, and any development applications may be delayed until the adoption and effective date of this ordinance. Accordingly, property owners and developers should not rely on existing land development regulations in making investment development-related decisions. I'm concerned about that in that somebody comes to us and they're in the process and everything seems to be going swimmingly well, but this ordinance, if they're not aware, you're saying, but we can change it, and it may change everything, and your costs, they're saying, don't count on it. It may cost you more money. It may cost you, and that's the kind of thing where cities, we get, and Deltona specifically, has shot themselves in the foot and get into trouble with that. I've had it experienced it on a personal level also with development, and where the city just decides to make some changes in it. They don't really care what's going on now. That can put us in a very precarious position as a city. I mean, even legally, it can put us in a precarious position. But, people, as Ms. Booker was saying, they've already expended a lot of money.
So if I can address that, this is the third zoning in progress that the city has done. The first one was regarding Live Local. The second one was regarding multifamily. And we've had pre-apps with applicants that are looking to do multifamily. When the zoning in progress was instituted, we notified the applicants at pre-app. This applicant, Ms. Booker, we notified their client back in October. Staff contacted their engineer of record and let them know that zoning in progress was in play. So they were notified back in October.
How, at that point, at what stage were they at that point?
They didn't submit at that point. The application had not even been submitted. And a pre-application is not an application to proceed. A pre-application meeting is a meeting where an applicant gets information from the city. We don't give the applicant a thumbs up or thumbs down on we talk about zoning, we talk about setbacks, and we tell them the process that they need to go through.
But wouldn't you agree that in effect you can be giving a sense that this is, as long as you meet this guidelines and you do these things at that point in the pre-app, I know it's not a final decision, obviously, but we don't want to lead anybody on either. If you thought, wouldn't it might be a good time at that pre-app to say, look, there's going to be some big changes here, you might want to wait.
So the pre-app happened back in July, and in October, once the zoning in progress was instituted by the Deltona City Commission, staff contacted the engineer of record and let them know back in October that there was zoning in progress.
This is coming down the pike.
Okay. Any other public comments, statements? Nobody else? Council, did you want to add anything?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Smith, anything further from you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I jumped the gun earlier. The question is there a motion before the board? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we reject this preliminary ordinance, or whatever you want to call it, because we haven't had time to review it.
To digest.
And it seems out of proper order.
Okay. So why don't you name the ordinance? So you would recommend that the board deny or not recommend?
Yeah,
Table.
I can't handle the idea that says we approve it and there'll be a bunch of changes, because I think it's too important.
Okay.
I second that.
Let's make sure we have the motion clear. The motion is to...
You're the lawyer.
Okay. You move to have the board not recommend or deny recommending ordinance 005-2025, amending section 11 110-319 PUD, Plan Unit Development, updating application requirements to include enhanced architectural, landscaping, and environmental standards of the Land Development Code of the City of Deltona. Okay, does everyone understand the motion is to not recommend, to deny?
Would
Recommendation.
the board member consider adding, tabling it, or to his motion? Or,
Isn't it still going to the city commission no matter what we say? But we're just making a motion.
That's what I thought, was table.
Well, council, for purposes of the council, what is the distinction between us tabling it or denying recommendation? They could just ignore our tabling and still rule and go forward with it, or, which seems like.
We've already tabled the other two. Wouldn't this be in conjunction anyway?
So a recommendation of denial would still move forward to the city commission just with a recommendation of denial.
They're going to do what they want to.
A motion to table would mean that it was not heard tonight, and this could still be heard at a commission meeting.
February 3rd, isn't it?
In February. However, it would note that it was tabled at this meeting.
Okay. So it has no true effect on the city commissioner's ability to move forward or not move
So
forward?
it's moot, yeah.
Is that, in essence?
Yeah, I mean.
Because we're recommending party.
Yes,
So obviously all we're doing
tonight
is
we would ask for a recommendation of approval. However, we've
But I
noted
have a
that the
question.
motion is to deny.
What happens to the other two items on the agenda that were tabled then? Were they going to be heard on the 3rd?
No, those are going to come back. First, we're going to do, I don't know if another workshop with the commission or just a discussion with the commission, but that will come to this planning and zoning board first.
So,
Because you have not heard that item.
okay, so that's not going to be decided either on the 3rd necessarily, but.
No. It
And I would like
may be
notice.
discussed on the 3rd, but it won't be voted on.
Right, there you go.
Seconded motion.
I'd just like to.
Their table carries weight, ours does nothing. So tabling it means that we didn't even hear it.
Yeah. Which
Which, if
not
we
good.
want the commission to hear what we're trying to tell them, we need to deny it.
Right, you need to vote.
So I'm going to second that motion.
Okay. You have something to say before we take a vote? Remember,
No, other than I hope that we'll all get notified this time. I didn't know about the workshop either, so.
I didn't have an insight either. If you read the ordinance, it says that the matter came before them on a workshop on the 13th and before us on the 15th, which was sent to us sent to us on the 9th. So
Right.
they were pre-proposing.
I
And I
didn't
just
see
happened
that.
to
I
do some
apologize.
research and go back and look for it on YouTube.
Okay, Madam Chair, could you?
We would like, the board would like to have an opportunity, if a matter's going to come before us, and there's going to be a workshop preceding the matter becoming before us, that we have an opportunity, at least advise us, and those members who want to take advantage of listening to the discussions can do so. Because to be honest with you, I got a more feeling from what you guys want to do by listening to the workshop than we got from here. So maybe sometimes it takes twice hearing something for it to absorb. And if there's an opportunity to hear it twice, and you hear the commissioner's comments, which generates matters that maybe you didn't bring before us, it helps us and allows us to put in a better position to be able to go forward and recommend that we adopt what the city is asking us to adopt. We would like to do so. I mean, that's our goal, is to move forward. So if we can do it, being informed, we would love to do that. Okay? So why don't we take a vote?
Member Gonzalez?
Can we clarify the vote?
Could you please clarify, we're voting to deny?
Yes, we're voting for ordinance number 05-2025.
At this
To deny
To
recommend.
deny or
Yes, denied.
deny. Member Pfeffer?
Yes to deny.
Member Trojanowski?
Yes, tonight.
Alternate D'Erico?
I'm sure she has an opinion.
Secretary Omaroso,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cardo,
Aye to deny.
Member Alexander,
Yes, to deny.
motion fails 7-0.
But you got one person.
Chairman Burke?
Madam Chair?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Chair Burke,
Yes, though it's not, it wasn't an easy decision. I was inclined to go to adopt it, but I will say yes.
Okay,
So the motion passed 7-0.
7-0.
It'll still go to the commission.
Okay.
That's all we got?
Yeah. My notes have gotten lost here. Staff comments? Any?
No comments.
Board committee meetings? Anybody have comments?
I do too. Go ahead. Go ahead, ladies first, please.
I would just like to reinforce what Chairman Burke mentioned a moment ago with regards to being more involved in code workshops and at least being given the opportunity to know when those workshops are being had in front of the commission and giving us the opportunity to be able to attend. Thank you.
And I would like to clarify that I am not against this concept of what you do. I commend you all for trying to, at least moving forward to cleaning this up in Deltona. I don't disagree that we do need some changes on these. Like you said, it's been 10 years. There's a lot happening. A lot has been happening. I've sensed that a lot of it was because of this flooding, just like the county, why the county's doing it. Development has affected our, in that respect. And it's important that we do these guidelines. I have to agree that it's got to be, there's just some points that, but I just wanted you to know that I'm not in disagreement with what you're doing, okay? I think it's a good thing that you're working on this. Thank you. Just who it affects. Thank you.
I also am not in disagreement. I wish I would have had a chance to read it properly so I could have compared, because the presentation that you had up there was exactly what Deltona needs. So it was a busy week, sorry. I also want to thank staff for all this work, because I do know how hard this was and how long it must have took. And also welcome to the new member and the new alternate.
Oh, there you go. That's right.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I do have one last comment as well too, and I do, I do agree with the concept, to move forward with that. It's a great concept. You guys put a lot of work into it. I definitely think it's on the right direction. I would just like more, like they said, give more time for other members to digest it before voting on it.
I sense the frustration that the city has, and I share with you in that frustration, because I know you do work hard and you want to move it forward. But I do also sense the consensus that the members have about not having enough information. I really hope we do go forward with it, because I think Deltona really needs it. I think it's the right direction. In fact, I think we're late. I hope it doesn't slow up progress in these projects, and I hope it comes right back before us, and I hope we'll have a little bit more information from which to digest. The redlining, it's great if you have the ability to go through it and compare, but we probably would be better served if you can delineate specifically for us where the changes are, as opposed to relying so much on the redlining, because it is a bit much to try to make the distinction what's changed and what's not changed. And I think we all take our position up here very seriously, that we don't want to just rubber stamp it because it comes before us. We want to have an understanding of what we're doing before we say yay. So it takes me a great pains to actually agree to deny it, because I thought it's something we need, I want it, but we just need to have a little bit more information. Okay? Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So second.
Adjourn.